Welcome, family. Welcome once again to Humanist TV Africa. The name is Comrade Apiajei Danka, and we are live on Humanist TV. Today, we are going to discuss about one of the most interesting topic in biology: biological evolution. And it is science, but people say it is very controversial because the origins of the human species is biblically written that it is the wish of God. But scientists also think otherwise. Scientists think we change gradually from one organism to the other organism. So right now, as you can see, we have one organism here, several organisms here. I'm also a different organism named the human being named Apiajei Danka, and I have with me my good old friend, my dear scientist, my dear learned friend Kwaku is in the house today. Kwaku is a research scientist. He has been through from all the education systems here in Ghana. He's a research scientist. He's also a senior professional nurse and a lecturer too. Kwaku is a tech enthusiast. He's trying to be the masters of all three. So Kwaku, welcome into my garden.
Thank you very much.
Welcome into my garden. Welcome. And our dear producer is. Yeah, I can hear you very well. I can hear you.
I heard and send me some plantains.
Yes. I have a couple of plantains here, so I will send you some. And thanks to Dennis Bongle of Uganda. Dennis is my able producer for today. Thank you for producing this show for me, and I really appreciate your effort. But you can subscribe to our channel on all the social media platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, Humanist TV Africa, on YouTube, on Facebook, Humanist TV Africa. Subscribe, do like and comment on our programs. Please share to all your loved ones, to those who even don't like. Just share our program to all of them. So today, basically, we're here to discuss about evolution. But this time, biological evolution, not the pro-evolution on your games. No, not the FIFA evolution, that game. No, we are talking about what made me Apiajei Danka, why I am here, how I came into being. So this is how we will start the program. But before, I just want my dear scientist to, brag about himself small, so that our dear viewers who have been watching us from today will know that we are talking with the experts. We are not talking with any layman. We are here to talk with the experts, because when the expert agreed, we take that as a knowledge, and that is science. So, guten Morgen once again. Guten Morgen, my dear friend Kwaku.
I don't know how to respond in German. I guess
so don't mind me. Don't mind me. I just want you to say something. Describe yourself in about 30 seconds. Then we take it from there.
Well, I think you said I'm an nurse, as you said. I'm also into tech, yes, and I'm into education as well. I try. I like reading a lot, and it's from reading these things that uh, like you get the knowledge. I wouldn't describe myself as an expert. I would only say I'm knowledgeable on the field because an expert would require, say, a degree on that field or in that field, and I do not have it. There are people who even have a PhD and they wouldn't still describe themselves as experts.
Of
So
course.
I would rather describe myself as knowledgeable
The, the,
in the field.
the reason I brought your expertise on board is you are a research uh,
Yes,
you are a researcher, and in that
yes,
field you are an expert in that field. So I was trying to tell our viewers that you are a researcher, so you know what you are doing, and you know the kind of information or the knowledge you will be able to
yes.
share with your audience. Yeah.
I do,
So
but see, that's the thing. People hardly describe themselves as experts. I in the field of research, other people describe others as experts, but they
expert,
hardly
yes.
accept that they are
Yeah, I
experts.
understand. I understand. I understand. But you know, we the lay people, the pastors, everybody describe themselves as experts, as knowledgeable, as so. We too,
They can,
we are good to
um,
go. We are good to go.
they can,
So
but
yes, 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 yeah. So Kwaku,
mhm,
I will start it this way. I will annoy you if you say we evolved from monkeys. Why
mhm.
are there this? Why are there monkeys? I know it is a dumb question, but once again, I will ask it for our dumb viewers.
Yes. Now, a lot of people actually ask that question, so I wouldn't even
Yeah.
describe it as a dumb question. It's a bad question, though, and it's a misrepresentation of something, of an image people often see. Humans did not evolve from monkeys. Nobody has ever said that anywhere. You wouldn't find that in any scientific textbook. It is often a straw man argument by proponents against evolution, and not that in evolution it is said that humans evolved from monkeys. It is rather the case that humans share a common ancestor. Mm, like humans share a common ancestor. That is not to say that we are monkeys. Now, our ancestors, we would describe them as monkey like. And I hope you would appreciate the distinction between the two statements. We and actually the apes, apes are different from monkeys. They are gorillas, they are also different. So humans fall into the category of apes, and all apes share a common ancestor. Then all monkey like organisms now also have a common ancestor. That is not to say that we evolved from monkeys. I hope the distinction has been made.
Yeah, and it's very clear. Thank you very much. But
Mm.
uh, what? How will you define evolution? What is evolution in the first
Well,
place?
let's take it like we do in English. Evolution simply means change. Yes,
Change.
and
Okay.
yes. So it simply refers to the change that accumulated changes that have occurred in species or in organisms, and that no organism presently alive were, as it were, say, a million years ago or 10 million years ago, we have undergone changes up to this point. Do you get it? So we are changing. Evolution, that's what it means, that we have changed from what we were from some time past to our present state.
Okay. Well understood. So
Mhm.
um so biological evolution, you are trying to tell me it is a change, a change of an organism,
Changes
a
that
change
have
of an
occurred, yes, changes that have occurred. That's evolution. So we were not as we were. We were different, say, a million years ago. You wouldn't
so
find organisms that look like us, that are us, but they would look like us. You understand? And if you go back a million years further, those organisms that you would have seen a million years ago would look like those that lived 2 million years ago, but slightly different. I hope
Understood.
you get that explanation. Mhm.
Yes, I get it. But before I get it, but I have to digest it. I have to get time to digest what you are telling me. But
Mhm.
before I understand what you are saying, whether it is true or not, can you take it briefly from the beginning? From the beginning, because eh, you are blowing up our head. So
Okay. So
take it from the beginning,
from the
how these
beginning would
changes
have been
accumulated. Why, when, how did one organism, were there multi cells as we have right now, or unicellular cells, or you people tell me from the beginning, from
okay.
time immemorial.
So yes, the current knowledge that we have is that all organisms started as unicellular organisms until cooperation started. So one unicellular organism doing something which may be beneficial to other organisms. So if a
I will let
unicellular
you continue
organism,
briefly. I'll let you continue briefly, but right now, because my Christian friends usually ask me, they will tell you, where did that unicellular organism came from? Did these organisms came out outer space, or they were developed here? Because we don't understand. That is why we are saying God took soil, made man, took the rib of the man, made the woman. Animals come, all come, simple. The fourth day God created the sun. Everything is dead. The sixth day, seven, he went to sleep. So you are here
okay,
telling me. So where did this you don't tell us?
okay. Now, uh, whilst evolution doesn't answer the origin of life, and whenever somebody brings this up, this is what I tell the person. It does not answer the origin of life, but it answers the history of life. And they are very distinct issues. That is not to say there is not an understanding of the origin of life. And there's been a lot of work going on to abiogenesis. That's how it's called. Life, that is life from unlife. That is abiogenesis, and it is different from evolution, which describes our history as organisms. Now, to go a bit into it, is there any evidence to even support abiogenesis? Or I won't take us too far, but you would expect that there will be some organisms which would be between life and unlife, like very simple organisms that are capable of life, but yet you wouldn't describe them as life. And indeed, we have such organisms. What causes the corona disease? The corona, what type of organism? Can you tell me
The coronavirus.
the type of organism that causes this COVID-19
Ah, I think
coronavirus?
it's a
Thank you very
virus.
much.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
yes, now a virus is in between and life. You understand? A virus is in between. If indeed life starts from very simple things, you would find such organisms. Now, I don't know if you know about the mad cow disease. Mad cow disease is
Uh,
caused by another organism which is simpler than a virus. It's called they are called prions. They are simpler than viruses and they still exist. So evolution does not answer the origin of life. It answers the history of life.
okay,
But
okay.
to answer your question, there is evidence to support abiogenesis, a lot of evidence. And as I said, you would find organisms in between and life. That is the absence of what we would call life and life. So from unicellular organisms come multicellular organisms, and the multicellular organisms start developing specialties, like each small set of the what makes it multicellular. So the cells within the multicellular develop specialized functions and do special things, and that would cause evolution.
Okay, okay. So
Mhm.
you are telling me this unicellular organism came, then also multiplied to be multicellular organisms, and as time goes on, the evolution you are telling me, as time accumulated, changes, and the,
No, I'm
these
saying that
organisms came.
that is not what I am saying though. I
Okay,
don't know if I don't want to make the conversation too complicated for everybody, but
okay,
there's RNA and there is DNA.
okay,
RNA is capable of several things. DNA is more like a storage, but basically, RNA is what performs a lot of tasks. They have lots of instructions. Every DNA is converted into RNA. Now, there are
okay,
RNA organisms only, organisms that only have RNA, and they are mostly viruses, and there are organisms that would have DNA. And strangely enough, viruses have both. There are viruses which are RNA only, like the HIV virus, and there are viruses that contain DNA. So I'm saying in between abiogenesis and evolution, there is a lot to tell. Of course, we can't say we will describe everything, but basically, life as we know it starts very simple and gets complex over time. And even take the human being, when you are born, it's just two cells. And those cells are actually not complete. It's half here, half there, which combine. And through that process, they, they become 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, in that exponential order. You understand? So we have even from our birth process an example of how things go from on life to half life to full life.
very good. So I understood on that part. Continue our journey from the you said 4 billion years ago, or 4.5 billion.
Well, the time, let's not be so much concerned about the time. You
Okay,
understand? Because even if it's 7 billion, it still doesn't change anything about the evolutionary process.
okay,
And yes, uh, there are ways in which we can understand evolution without paying so much attention or any attention at all to the time in which things would have happened. But it is time is a very important factor in describing evolution because given time, several things are possible. People actually cannot even fathom what is a million years. Humans live not more than 150. 150 is even in excess of human years, you understand? So to fathom 1
understood.
million years, yes. So
Okay,
one
okay.
may go ahead and ask your question.
Yeah, okay. I wanted you to take us through the processes, as in how like not like briefly. I know this is about 500,000 pages. We are just using
Mhm.
about an hour to describe, but I want you to take us through how these organisms evolved, and basically made me Apiajei Danka. So you told us about unicellular, multicellular, and so let's trace the line of the human being, because it seems that is what is very important to us, because our mothers and fathers told us that in the Bible God created us in the image of God. So I believe God have penis like I have. That is why he was able to come and impregnate Mary. So we were created in the image of God, but you are telling us otherwise. So you take us through how, briefly, then how I came into being. Then maybe I'll understand what you are saying.
Okay. Now, for nobody knows exactly what happened, but we have a very good idea of what happened. It's like if you went to a crime scene, or even where you are standing. If you came back another time and somebody has cut or fallen your plantain, of course you start looking for evidence. You understand? The thing would have happened in the past. You wouldn't know exactly what happened. if when you got up and got to where you are this morning, somebody was dead or you found a dead body, you understand? You start looking for evidence. You would not be able to describe in exact terms what happened, the
Yeah.
conversation that they had before the person was killed. But the reasonable thing to do is to start looking for what? Evidence. So humans have always assumed that we were created or this was how we were. You understand? Until, and even though people had suspicion, the truth is Darwin wasn't the first person. People had that suspicion, but he was the first person to document. Indeed, at that same time, there was another researcher who had also come to a very similar conclusion that no, the best explanation for life as we see it is evolution. So, from the unicellular state, as you mentioned, arose multicellular organisms, and as multicellular organisms came, were specialized, like some tissues formed, and a tissue is a set of cells, or it could be a group of cells that form organisms. And
Wow. Wow. Come back, come back, come back to me, Kweku. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Dennis, if you can hear, okay, okay, thank you very much. But Dennis, if you can hear me, you can chip in our video, Kweku sent you, so you can chip in something like that. And I don't have my laptop with me, so I wanted you to, whilst we are talking, I wanted you to roll some of the pictures for us. Yeah, yeah. So yes, basically, this is what the cells Kweku is talking about. This is the DNA strand. Yeah, this is where the information of every living organism exists. Human beings, we have DNA. That's more the reason when your wife gives birth these days, you have to do a DNA test with your child for you to confirm that indeed it is your own child. So Kweku was talking about this of biological. This is the photographs of the biological evolution of humans. So I can see from my extreme left hand, there is this short man over there. I can't see. I wanted to mention his name, but yeah, Kweku come and explain. This short man, was he my ancestor? Eh, and we have this one. Yeah. So yes. So basically, this is what Kweku has been trying to tell us that we came from. And Dennis, I want you to give me more pictures so that I'll be able to explain myself very well. Yes. So um, he is he was talking about Charles Darwin. Darwin is a British biologist, a scientist, and at an early age, I think around the age of 22, he made an expedition around the world. As Kweku said, he went to the Galapagos Island, where he found all these strange uh, bones, old bones there. He came to South America, he came to Africa. And Kweku, are you around? Can you hear me,
yes, I
Kweku?
am.
Yes. So Kweku, continue on.
Yes, I can.
Continue with.
Can you also hear me?
Yes. Yes. Continue on.
Okay.
We can hear you.
So,
So continue.
uh, so as I was saying, as the multicellular organisms arose and tissues formed, tissues are a collection of cells that perform the same task. So as tissues formed, we began having what we would now call like organisms living, like a big organism. But then you would start small all the time, and you get bigger. Maybe you find more. If you're able to feed well, you become bigger. Now you ask the question. So how did you become you? How did you Nana became Nana? So there are some things that influence evolution, and one of them is natural selection. Natural selection means where an organism has an advantageous gene. Now, natural selection is not automatic. Something must happen. Something must happen that must favor you to the disadvantage of others. Take, for instance, between a fair lady and a dark lady. I often give this example. As it is now, if you are in Ghana and you are a fair lady, you are most likely, in my opinion, I could be wrong about it, but in my opinion, if you were a fair lady, you are more likely to find uh, a suitable mate. Or if you're a man, women have the kind of physique that they want. So take that
But
same example into your genes. You
for me, I like Hajabin too.
fine. That's what you
I
like.
love watching more than Jollof.
Okay,
And
yes. See, that
and
is your preference. But
I prefer the big human who has evolved with big behind.
yes, so if a lot of men like such women, you understand. Then
Okay.
if a lot of men like such women, then it becomes advantageous to as a woman to have those characteristics, meaning you are more likely to give birth and pass your generation to the next. So that is how evolution, natural selection works. Something happens, some like COVID-19 happened, and people who had a particular gene which did not favor them, and in this case, like all the white seems to have some genes which did not help them. So people of Caucasian origin were at more risk of COVID-19 than people of African origin. That is natural. Something happens, and because of some genes you have. Now, the genes, it may not necessarily be beneficial. I'll give you the example of malaria and sickle cell. People with sickle cell, especially those who are carriers, are at less risk of malaria or suffering the malaria disease. They can get the organism, but they are at less risk of suffering the disease. But when they do, it becomes serious. I'm not saying that go and anyway, you can't give yourself sickle cell. There appears to be that relationship between sickle cell and malaria, and that sickle cell is actually present in only malaria endemic areas. If you have sickle cell right now, you are either from uh, the Arabian areas or Africa. It's only people of that descent that have the sickle cell trait. So this is how it works. There is natural selection. If something happens right now that does not favor those with sickle cell, it is going to wipe them off, leaving only those who do not have the sickle cell trait. Or if something happened and the sickle cell trait is advantageous, it is going to wipe out those who don't have the sickle cell trait. So that the next generation of humans, because only the survivors all have sickle cell trait, only those who have the sickle cell trait would survive unto the next generation. That is
So
natural
in
selection.
this case, you
There
are
is
talking about natural selection.
Yes, that's natural selection. And there is what we're
So those
describing where
who have beneficial genes, or let's say super powerful genes, survive more or less, like they are able to
no,
adapt to that environment at that particular time than those who are weaker in that environment.
the genes are not necessarily beneficial. You understand? They only
Okay.
become beneficial when the event arises.
Okay.
In the absence of the event, the genes may actually be detrimental to the person. As I said, in the event something happens and only those with sickle cell would survive, sickle cell is not beneficial. You understand? But
Okay.
if something happens and only those with sickle cell are going to survive, at that moment, the sickle cell trait becomes is beneficial to the event or the circumstance.
Okay.
You get it?
Understood. Understood.
Okay. Then there's another way that evolution works that we call that one the artificial selection. And the artificial selection is often caused by humans. Humans have
Okay.
bred dogs, like because we prefer a certain type of dog, we breed dogs with certain characteristics so that they do what we want them to do. Maybe we want them to be strong, for horse race, must be strong, and other things. That those ones are artificial selection. Humans are actively changing or selecting some genes to pass on to the next generation. Then there is sexual selection where often happens with the females. So the females determine which are attracted to, say, and uh, being strong and powerful is not about your muscles or other things. So for instance, having a lot of money is a sign of power or strength as a male. So most females
Yes.
would be attracted to such a male. Therefore, if those men have some genes, those genes get passed on to the next generation. And the other men who do not meet the criteria of women would not have their genes passing on to the next generation. So as it happens, so for instance, in the Netherlands, they are very tall. I think the tallest people in the world are in the Netherlands. I think
Yes.
if you come to Africa, the Uganda, yes, there's some form of, or there was some form of
The South
sexual selection
Sudanese
at some
and the
point in time.
Ugandans, the East Africans, the South
Yes,
Sudanese and the
yes,
Ugandans, they are really
yes,
tall.
yes. So there
And
was
I want to
some
marry
sort of
from
sexual
the South
selection.
Sudan, but they say I have to bring 100 cows.
Well, you have to pay that the 100 at a go.
Yeah, you talk about women doing the natural selection themselves, and we, the losers, will go extinct without leaving our legacies. Ah,
Exactly,
so yeah, so
exactly.
it makes sense.
So,
It makes sense.
mhm. Okay, thank you very much. There are other things that you need to consider when it comes to evolution. Somebody would ask, how do we know that this is true, that evolution is true at all?
Okay.
And I have good news for such a person that there are lots of evidence to prove that evolution is true. One of it is the fossil records. We have found fossils of human evolution, not only humans, but the evolution of almost all other organisms. Oh, okay, no, I can't say that for sure, but the evolution of most organisms, where we find how they were previously and how they have evolved into their current form. So the fossil record serves as one of the evidence for human evolution. The next one is anatomy and physiology. Anatomy, we are talking about the structure, and physiology, we are talking about the function. If you look at human anatomy, it is so comparable to other mammals. Yes, there is one brain, there is one heart, there are two lungs. So these are the fossil records. Thank you for bringing that up. Now, the organism on the left is not a monkey, as we often want to say. It's not a monkey. It looks like a monkey, but it is not a monkey. Okay, so I was talking about the anatomy and the physiology. Our structure is so similar, and if for all those in the mammalian category, very similar. If you go to the reptilian category, they are also what very similar. If you go to the fishes, they also become what very similar. Our anatomy are that similar, and the more the further you descend, like from the family order, phylum, I don't think I know that in the more you descend,
I,
the more
I
similar
remember
you
my
become.
integrated science.
Then
Let me remember.
yes,
I remember my integrated science. Kingdom,
okay,
phylum, class, order,
mm-hmm,
family, genus,
mm-hmm,
species.
species,
Yeah.
yes, and even sometimes
Or they
there are subs.
or they've added some to it.
Yes, so if you look at embryonic records as you're also displaying, just compare the embryonic development. Embryonic here means the development of the organism, either in the egg or in the uterus.
Okay.
We are so similar that it stands to reason that we were one and the same in the distant uh, in the distant past. That is self-explanatory. Then we can also look at some other evidence like what we call the endogenous retroviruses. Now, these are, let's say, scars in our DNA. Nana, if you had four scars on your right leg,
Okay.
what are the chances that you will find somebody who also has four scars on the right leg at those same positions? What do you think are the chances?
I won't say none, but usually, if you have those scars, you might have inherited it from your parents. So there are these black spots on our body, in which uh, sometimes you have it, and you one day see your father also have it at that particular place.
Yes, thank you very much. So, if you found somebody with, you have four scars on your right leg, and you found somebody who has the same at the same position, relatively the same size on the right legs, what would you say? Even though you've never met this person, what would you say?
You might think he's your relative, or
Yeah, he would be your relative because the chances of having four scars at the same location is, and that something may have happened at birth, right? Either you or that person has been stolen. Okay.
yes.
Now, these endogenous retroviruses are like scars on our DNA, stretch. It so happens that humans and uh, apes and the other apes share these scars at almost this, not at almost, at the same locations. Don't you think it would mean that humans and the other apes have a common ancestor? When you suffer a viral disease, sometimes it may affect your sperm or your egg. When it happens like that and you give birth, you pass the location of where the virus inserted itself in the sperm or the egg. You pass it to your children, and your children will pass it to their children. You understand? And it will go on and on and on. Each child that you have it because it has become core part of the DNA. Now we have
Okay.
apes and humans having the same insertion points for endogenous retroviruses. One explanation is that
Dennis,
they
you can roll
happen
the
to,
pictures as Kwaku is talking. Dennis, if you can hear me, please, you can roll the pictures for us. Kwaku, continue.
one, one explanation is that humans and apes suffer the same disease or suffer the same viral infection. And once the infections, they inserted themselves at the same location. But we find out to be very low probability to near impossible. If it's one, that's okay. But it's one, two, three, four. The moment you hit something like five, it becomes, you can completely disregard that they suffered the infections and the organisms embedded themselves at that same location. The most probable explanation would be that indeed we have a common ancestor. That is why we have those insertions at that same locations, and that is the only way that can be explained. If you have any questions regarding the endogenous retroviruses, I would explain it. Then we can also look at our social structures. In fact, in Key, they say while sitting in the hand of the chimpanzee, you should be careful about yours. Be careful about yours because it is so similar, and you might find out you might chew your own what
Hans.
fingers. You might chew your own hands. I think our
Oh,
forefathers
your force are
genuinely,
not here.
yes, what we once are not here. So it is, if you look at how they give birth, take care of their young. Have you ever seen an ape crying over a dead? Yeah, it's very much like
Yes, they do.
humans. Yes, they do. So if you look at
They
our
do.
behavior and their behavior, there is no difference between the behavior. We may go about it differently. They may go about it differently. They cry. they get happy, they show anger. Yes, so it's just the only way that all these things, like our observation, and that's why I talked about if you found a dead body, you will start collecting evidence. Whilst you may initially suspect somebody to be responsible for the murder of that person, if you collect evidence and it is the case that no, this other person committed a crime, you cannot hold on to your belief and insist that no, my initial hypothesis about the person who committed the murder must hold. No, we have collected evidence, and the evidence is clearly in favor that evolution best explains the world. You understand? It gives us a better explanation of the world that we live in than any other competing theory. It is also possible that humans came from Mars. After destroying Mars, we came and settled here with some organisms, or Zeus or Yahweh or any other gods created. Yes, it's okay to have that hypothesis, but the evidence that we have, we are looking at the evidence that we have. It is so much in support of evolution that there is no more question about whether evolution is true or not. We are only looking out for ways that we can better understand how evolutionary processes work. And it is not anymore about whether it is true or not. It is one such that we can say that the final nail has been put in the coffin. It is a done and dusted issue. There is so much scientific consensus on evolution that it still hurts me that people would deny. See, there's a difference between not knowing and denying that and denying it. People are in
Yes,
denial that it is not true, blah blah blah. It's a hypothesis. It's just how do you say it's just a
but
theory.
but not to cut you. I think
Mhm.
around 2011, the
Mhm.
imams in United States of America
Mhm.
came together that indeed evolution is real. Evolution is 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 true, but they said it is in support of the Quran. The Quran indeed made some all so they were also advocating not to use religious texts to teach science in America. They
Yeah.
were advocating that yes, science is science, but it doesn't conflict with their Quran, so they should
Okay.
allow science people to teach. And I think the Catholic also uh, in the 300 year 400 years ago, I think they were against this new
Okay.
sort of
The
but
truth is
right
that
now the Catholic
evolution.
too is agreeing to it. So this brings me back to the question. So if evolution is change, are we still evolving? Are human beings still evolving? And if so, you give us some evidence so that
Please, evidence of. I didn't hear what you said.
I said if you told us evolution is true and it can be tested and everything. But what I'm telling you, so are we still evolving? Are human beings still evolving? That's why people usually ask. Then why aren't there, if we are still evolving, why aren't other species also turning to other species?
Yes, we are
we
still
don't
in.
we don't, yeah, we don't understand the times, and so the Bible was made simple for us. 6,007 days we were created. You doesn't have to think about thousands millions of years and whatever. But are we still evolving? And if we are, what are the signs or what are the evidence that we are still evolving? Hello, hello, Kwaku. Kwaku. um okay, Kwaku, please, did you hear what I said?
I heard snipers. Could you summarize it for me?
Yes, I'm asking you. So if evolution is true, are living organisms still evolving? Are human beings still evolving? And if we are evolving, what are the evidence or the signs that will make us with the layman guys like me know that indeed we are still evolving?
Okay. So the short and simple answer is that yes, we are still evolving. And not only humans, all organisms are evolving. What makes evolution very difficult to observe in humans is that we have a very short lifespan, a very short lifespan. So 120 years is not enough for you to observe evolution in humans. No, okay, sorry, I took it wrongly. We actually have a long lifespan in terms of living. We are one of the organisms that live for long.
Okay.
So our change takes so much time to demonstrate. But if you observe like the microorganisms where they reproduce very early, like some organisms within 5 minutes they have reproduced. We are talking of bacteria, uh, binary fission, and other things. They would have. So we observe it more frequently in organisms that have a much shorter lifespan. But for humans, we are evolving, but it's difficult to observe because we live for long. And no human is going to live for like 2 million years to observe the changes that would have occurred. Okay. Now, presently, there are some populations of humans that have different characteristics compared to the rest of us. And you find all those people living in specialized areas. Like if you go to people who live around Tibet and those very cold places, they have adapted to the environment in which they are living. You find them having maybe their lungs expanding so that uh, they can survive for long on the in the cold weather and other things. Humans are evolving, but it's just that there has not been a natural selection or artificial selection to weed out some people to bring out the new crop of humans that have a certain gene that would survive. And that is also because humans have drugs, and humans at the moment travel so much. Because we are traveling and we are mingling with each other, we are sort of dampening the effect of natural selection on us. And because you have drugs, which otherwise would have killed us, we're able to survive a lot of these conditions. Put together, human beings have sort of slowed our evolutionary process. But then there are people who are alive, like the Bajau people who spend most of their time on sea. As they do that, you will find out that their spleen has gotten bigger compared to the rest of the human population. All quite at the moment, all Caucasians we have right now are from a certain human ancestor, and that was displayed the Neanderthals. Every Caucasian alive now is a descendant of that branch of. They are not uh, Homo sapiens. It's a different branch, but for every Caucasian alive now is a mixture or is a progeny of a Homo sapien and a Neanderthal. That is why we have Caucasians. But then the base of their genes are Homo sapiens. So it is the case, humans are evolving, but we do not have a selection pressure to distinguish or to clear out some of us. That is why we are still there. He
Yeah.
brought out a picture of the giraffe. If he could bring that picture up, I also like to say something about it. Now, this is a this picture serves two purposes. One, it explains evolution, and two, it tells you uh, how how intelligent design is not so intelligent. This is the recurrent pharyngeal nerve. It starts from the right, and its destination is the white one on the left. You could just draw a straight line from the tip of the white lines at the top. So that is the genesis, and that one is the evolution, is the destination. But how do we find? We find this nerve descending all the way, going around the arteries, actually looping around the arteries before going to its final destination. You would ask, if the destination for this nerve was just that short distance, why does it have to do the loop? It does the loop because humans were not as we are now. We were smaller and we were fish-like. And if you there is this animation that shows how this thing will be possible or how it will go. That same nerve in the giraffe actually takes the same path, but because the giraffe has a longer neck, it does a longer loop. So ask yourself, what distance does it need to cover, and why does it have to do all this loop? It doesn't make sense somehow. The idea of intelligent design given this nerve is highly improbable, but evolution were true. You would find out that because we share a common ancestor, and this nerve would have been present in our ancestor, it will form that same loop in every other organism that is alive today. And that is what we see. Nana, over to you.
Thank you very much. What you were saying, I've realized, I've read this, I read something online, and it has surprised many people, but I think it is true. They
Mhm,
say when our ancestors, our brothers, were taken from Africa to the West, to the Americas, because they were
mhm,
slaves, they were purposely men sent there to go and work, but they
mhm,
weren't sent there to go and mate. So the
mhm,
slave masters chose tech guys whose occupation or whose job to do was to impregnate the well-built women, and
mhm,
the the well-built women. So one guy, maybe he will not be part of the plantation of the slaves working on the plantation, but they will be feeding him milk and so many goodies, and his job is to impregnate the black Negroes, as many as possible. So they were breeding
Well,
people who 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 black people who be stronger, who will be taller, who will be more muscular. That is why I think, uh, as Africans, as we if we compare ourselves with the black Americans, though most of them were taken out from especially West Africa, and West Africa, we guys are not that huge. Guys, most of us are, let me say, average or short, or shorter. But suddenly, within about 200, 300 years, we are having Americans 6 foot, 6 foot, 6 foot. Almost the average height of the black American is, I think, 6 foot. So it's this one is artificial selection. I don't know if you heard anything about that.
yeah, I'm not aware of that hypothesis, but it wouldn't be far off. And one thing is that to even make it onto the ship to the Americas to work, you ought to be strong. You ought to have survived
Yes,
the. Yes, so there was some artificial selection of strong people to go. If you had any form of disease, you wouldn't make it there. You understand?
yes,
Okay. I'm not saying the theory is true or not, but we have people with sickle cell in the African African population in the Americas. You understand?
yeah,
Okay,
yes,
maybe they didn't know sickle cell then, but if somebody had sickle cell, they were carriers. They could have exhibited the strengths and other things to make it there and maybe go and meet, but they are not people who are carriers are not free from. So as much as the sickle cell is still present there, I think it will not support the theory that they purposefully selected only the strong African men to populate or to go give the next generation. As I said,
yeah, Yes,
It
what we
would
are
make
saying
sense.
is what you are saying, but uh, it is not all the slave masters who did this, but there were other people because the slavery was to be because it was abandoned. I think 18 the early 1800s. The slave trade was abandoned. I think 1810 or 1804. They decided to get the use the descendants of these slaves there to be the next slaves to work on their
No,
plantation.
I'm saying
So they
what
needed
I'm saying is that
strong people. So there was this support that, and that's why you're saying most Black Americans. That's why they are taught they are Black basketball players, and even they are using them for sports and athletics.
I'm saying I do not know. I'm not saying it is not true, but if somebody did that, that would explain the situation in which we find ourselves. You understand? I do not know, so I cannot say it is true. And this is one of those things. I cannot say it is true or not, but it would explain a certain situation in which, or a certain situation that exists. Okay. Now there will be this other issue of whether humans. Sorry, my mic. Okay. So I was saying that I do not know about that, but it is plausible. It being plausible doesn't mean that it did happen. I cannot talk to that. In another issue, I think in our earlier discussion, we were talking whether evolution and creation. Evolution does not exclude creation. Evolution is still possible under the creation hypothesis that an almighty being or beings would have created some or created life in the first place and programmed it to evolve. That is possible. What we cannot prove is that happening. Evolution is not against any religion. Evolution is not against God. It only explains the reality in which, or the reality that everybody observes. Let me repeat, it is possible that Yahweh, Zeus, Akhenaten, or any other god or gods could have come together and created the first unicellular organism or assembled some atoms, molecules, and created the first unicellular organism so that and programmed it to evolve. It is possible. It is also possible that some aliens came and assembled those molecules and have since died and are gone. Under the theory of evolution, all these things are what? Possible. Evolution does not exclude creation. It's just that it is improbable. Creation is improbable under evolution. That would be it. In summary, if I'm to summarize everything we have discussed here, evolution best explains nature as we can observe it. There is no other competing theory, and for good reason. Nobody is going to re-examine something that we have conclusive. We have fossil records. There are DNA records, irrefutable DNA records, and other things. As for that, is done and dusted. What the world is looking at right now is accumulating more knowledge on how evolutionary processes occur, and with that, host is I have become a part-time host. I would sign off for that. Read more, and you would learn more. Thank you all very much.